Hello, my name is Tanja Kajtna. I'm a psychologist. I'm a sports psychologist. I work at the Faculty of Sport at University of Ljubljana, and this webinar is going to be about motivation. Motivation in sport is one of the most important psychological terms because it will influence the way we behave, the way we think, the way we act, and it is the basis for our activity in general. It is also one of the most widely researched terms in psychology. One of the most important theories in psychology that a coach should know and understand is that of Abraham Maslow from 1954. It presents a hierarchy of needs, and it addresses the point that these needs need to be satisfied in a progressive manner. So when we have our basic needs satisfied, we can continue on to further needs, such as need for safety, then need for love, and so on. We see this progression when we are hungry, for example, or when we are really tired. We don't think about our successes, our goals, our achievements. Our first thought in such a situation is, I am hungry. I need to get something to eat. A coach will see this, for example, when they're on a training camp and an athlete is going to be hungry or tired. They don't really care anymore about how they're doing in practice. All they care for is getting some rest. If we explain this a little bit, the basic needs are food, drink, rest, also sexual needs. These need to be satisfied in order for us to function. They're called push motivations sometimes by certain theories, and it means that this is something we need to do in order to function at all. Another set of needs that is also addressed as push motivation is need for safety. This need for safety should be understood as knowing that I'll be able to satisfy my basic needs. It's not just feeling safe from a terrorist attack or making sure that nobody will attack me or something like that. It means that I know how to address or satisfy my basic needs. From here on, we continue to higher level needs. The first one is need for love. This need for love should not be understood just as love for a person. It's also love for an activity. If we speak to adult swimmers, they will say that they love swimming, that they love the feeling of being in the water, that they enjoy themselves when they are swimming. And this is love for an activity. And when athletes love what they are doing, they will enjoy themselves and will strive for continuing with this activity. Need for love sometimes is not present with children who are brought to swimming by their parents because they used to swim. And if a child doesn't really like that activity, he will probably not engage as much as he could. When we continue from the need for love, we go on to need for respect and status. These are needs that enable us to feel important in a society, to say that, yes, they like me, people respect me, people praise me for what I do. And this starts with a coach. So a coach is the person who has to say, you're doing good, you're meeting my criteria, you're doing better than you used to do. And swimming is one of the sports that is beautiful just because it can be measured. The results in swimming are measured through time. A lot of sports don't have this advantage or this privilege. And when a swimmer is improving, when he's doing or she's doing their best results or their best times, they will feel respected, and the coach can objectively say, yes, you're doing good, you're improving. And all of this a little bit leads to self-actualization, which basically means achieving our highest goals or our highest potentials. In sport, motivation is often misunderstood when we when I speak to coaches, they often say, how should I motivate my athletes? And we're all full of ideas that we get from television or from media. And one of these ideas is motivational speeches, as they're called. I'm going to show you one of the motivational speeches from a movie called Any Given Sunday, where a coach addresses his team of American football players before they enter a match. So let's watch this video together.
I don't know what to say, really. 3 minutes till the biggest battle of our professional lives. All comes down to today. Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. Now, I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I chased off anyone who's ever loved me. And lately, I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's gonna win that inch. And I know if I'm gonna have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're gonna see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're gonna see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're gonna do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals. That's football, guys. That's all it is. Now, what are you going to do?
So with this movie, or this movie clip in mind, if we try to answer this question, is this a motivational speech, or is this something that just increases activation? when we see them in the beginning, they're sitting in the locker room, they're quiet, they appear to be uninterested. And then the coach slowly builds up the momentum. He speaks faster, he starts to speak louder, he makes a good point, and it actually activates them. It arouses them in a way to be prepared for a competition. And that's not motivation, that's activation. Motivation is being prepared to do something because we have a goal, because it's something we want, and it's something a bit more permanent than activation. Activation can increase quite rapidly. We, for example, start to get very activated in case we believe that we're going to be exposed. So if I was to ask you now to stand up and sing your national anthem in front of a crowd, I'm sure that if you were about to do that before you started singing, you would be very, very activated. Another thing with motivational speeches or activational speeches is that it's very hard to do a good one. And if we cannot do a good one, perhaps it's better not to do one at all. The best thing to say to athletes before a competition is just one or two instructions that they know how to carry out, instead of these speeches about success or winning and similar. The other mistake that coaches often make regarding motivation is that they believe that when they say you're going to do good, everything's going to be okay, it will increase the motivation. This can be true when the statement that they say or the statement a coach says is realistic. But if I was to go compete against somebody who is much better than me and my coach would say, go on, you can do it, you can beat him, I probably wouldn't take it as motivation. I would take it as perhaps the coach is making fun of me, or I would perhaps think that he's not taking me very seriously. And of course, the third thing is that motivation can be changed despite what some coaches believe. Motivation is something that fluctuates. It's developmentally a little bit lower in adolescence or when athletes start growing up because they need to decide, do I want to swim on? Do I want to focus my life or dedicate my life to swimming? Or does that mean that I will have no time for my friends, that I will need to be a bit less successful in school? The other thing is that motivation can be increased through reward, through appraisal, through success on competitions. But through poor behavior of coaches or through disrespect, it can, of course, also be decreased. A lot of coaches have a problem when their athletes start growing up. So they say they were so good or they were so motivated when they were children, but now all of this is disappearing and they don't like swimming anymore. That's not the case. It's just a regular developmental change. And in sport participation, we speak of two types of motivation. One is motivation for practice. Those who have motivation for practice on a very high level will enjoy practicing. They will come to every practice. They will bring all their gear for practice. They will follow your instructions exactly as you want them to do it. Those who aren't will participate a little bit less. They will try a little bit less hard. They won't do exactly what you ask of them. If you give them 15 repetitions of something, they will just do 14. They will not push when it will get difficult. Then you also have motivation for competitions. People who have motivation for competitions on a high level will like to compete. They will enjoy being in a competitive situation. They will feel good when they will enter a competition. For successful swimmers, it is desirable to have both motivation for practice and for competitions. For a coach, it's a bit more problematic if someone has a high motivation for competitions but low motivation for practice, because then they will not be able to show what they have on the competition because they haven't practiced enough. On the other hand, when somebody loves to practice but does not like to participate in competitions, This can be due to pre-competitive anxiety, and often when such athletes learn how to calm down or to relax, they do far better in competitions. Um, of course, for high motivation, athletes need constructive feedback, which means that you need to be present at their practices. You need to look at what they're doing. You need to tell them when they're doing good and when they're doing bad. You need to be able to evaluate what they're doing, uh, to tell them after every competition what was good, what was bad, and also what they could learn from this competition and how to continue with practice in the future. Um, Motivation does change a little bit through an athlete's career. We can speak of internal and external motives. Um, on the y-axis, we have the amount of motive, and on the x-axis, we have the progression of a career. We can see that in the beginning, the external motivation, such as money, fame, success, being better than everybody else, being a public figure, perhaps having a scholarship, that is not very present. So this slowly increases through the athlete's career. However, in the optimal case, it will never reach the level of internal motives. And if it might be higher on occasions, it would be due to an immense success. However, external motives in most athletes drop after such successes below the level of internal motives. These are participating because I like it, because I have fun, because I have friends there, because I'm able to push my limits higher. And that is what most children start with. They enjoy swimming, they enjoy learning new stuff, they get to learn a new technique to improve, to be better than they were before. They get to play in the water. And for most successful athletes, this is something that stays on a very high level throughout their careers. One important thing is that we should build on internal motivation by appraising their good work, their effort, their improvement according to themselves. And thus we can build up an athlete that will focus primarily on oneself. Because that's what a swimmer should be able to do as good as they can. Whether it's better than worse than everybody else, it's up to everybody else. But when an athlete is taught to be satisfied with what he can do or showing everything that he has, that is something that can lead to an adult career or to a successful athletic career. If athletes are encouraged too soon into winning or competing, so when external motives are pushed too high too soon, you have athletes who participate because it can show them that they're better than everybody else, and they will start working and swimming for perhaps fame, for being exposed, and that can be a problematic situation, for example, when they're injured, because there's very little exposure when they're injured. Also, there's very little fame. There is not that much money in swimming, so it's hard to work for money in swimming. But if you look at internal motives, those can be satisfied every day, every practice, 4 or 5 hours a day in an adult swimmer. It's far better to work on internal motives. How do we do that? We encourage effort, we encourage hard work, we praise their best times, we praise them for enjoying themselves, we create interesting and fun practices, we always introduce new stuff into practices, and this will lead to building up a good structure of internal motivation, whereas external motives should be left to appear in a later on career. If you look at this graph, and this is the beginner, this is perhaps a 15, 16-year-old swimmer, and perhaps not even that much. So when first scholarships come, when first big competitions come, up to here, it should always be fun and enjoyment and personal progress. The best way to satisfy a good motivational structure in sport is to set good goals. And good goals have certain characteristics. Before we go into those, we have two sets or two types of goals. One are outcome goals and one are performance goals. Outcome goals are based on placement. So when somebody says, I want to win, this is an outcome goal. A performance goal in swimming is a best time. So I want to do my best time. I want to be better than before. Or perhaps I want to do a good turn because this is what I've been working on in practices. And good goals will have some characteristics. They will be very specific. The path for achieving that goal will be very well defined. So if an athlete says, I want to swim 100 medley in 58 seconds, it's a specific goal. The time is exact. The path for achieving it will be very well defined because they will know what they need to improve, for example, the start or which technique they need to practice more. The goal has to be just enough difficult. So if, an athlete who has a personal best in medley 58.7, 58 can be an enough difficult goal to strive for. If this person's personal goal or personal best time is 1 minute and 2 seconds, a goal of 58 seconds might be a bit too difficult. If the goals are too simple, if we know that we're going to achieve them on our own, they might not be as motivational as they could be. Of course, you as a coach has to agree with the goal and have to take part in setting it. You have to cooperate with the athlete. You have to ask them what they want, what they believe they can achieve, and you can also direct them. If they set goals that you believe are too low, you can encourage them to perhaps set goals that are just a little bit higher. And of course, you're the one who will provide feedback and reward for achieving the goal and for walking on the path of that goal. And of course, you're the one who's going to structure the environment that will avoid stress and conflict just enough for this athlete to be able to achieve their goal. One common mistake that we do when setting goals is that we just set the goal. So, for example, this athlete, I want to swim 100 medley in 58 seconds. Okay, and that's it. But we sometimes forget to place it in a season. We forget to define how we're going to achieve this goal. And it's often that the path to this goal is just as or even more important than the goal itself, because in a sense, we're always on the path. The time of achieving a goal is relatively brief. And I'm going to present you with a goal setting scheme that addresses all those rules and characteristics of good goals. The first step is, of course, to set the goal. And this table shows us what we could ask the athlete. So we can ask him, what is your season's goal? Of course, as the season is usually long, we should also set several short-term goals. So we have this athlete, I want to swim 58 at the national championships in 100 medley. The short-term goal could be the first competition in this time, and short-term goal, for example, to improve my back breaststroke turn. Goals should be set for one season, or it's perhaps most efficient to set them for one season. 4-year goals or Olympic term goals, they're difficult to set because so much can happen in those 4 years. But if an athlete insists that he or she wants to have a 4-year goal, we can call it a dream goal and say, okay, I want to have an Olympic time or qualify for the Olympics in the next 4 years, or even perhaps be in the semifinals at the Olympics. The second thing that we need to do in goal setting is to address the areas that we wish to improve and set specific goals for those areas, and also encourage them to set a plan on how to achieve those specific goals. For example, this athlete says, I would like to improve in physical fitness, and specific goals would be, I want to increase my strength by 10%, and I would also like to increase agility. How will I do that? I will be more serious in the gym because I know that I haven't been as serious as I could have been so far. And I will also exercise regularly because this athlete will say, okay, I used to miss a practice or two before. Same could be done, for example, for psychological preparation, for nutrition, and any other area that is needed to improve. This could also address, for example, having good grades in school, or perhaps making sure that the relationships with my parents are good, that the relationships within the group are okay. And once we have set the areas that we need to improve, we will also know exactly what to do. When we set a goal for a season, that period when this goal will be tested can be far away. If we have day-to-day instructions or activities that we need to carry out, we will start working on this goal immediately. Another issue that should be addressed in goal setting is also how does this goal fit into the context of our lives, or a bit of a broader perspective on the goal. Me and my friend like to call this Plan B. It means asking the athlete, what could go wrong? So, what could obstruct my path to this goal? What will happen if I don't reach my goals? A lot of athletes who say it's going to be just horrible, I'm just going to stop swimming. This is a situation where we need to be careful about controlling anxiety in such an athlete. Perhaps the goal is even too high if they think that it's going to be a disaster if they don't achieve it. We can also think about possible obstacles and set a plan to overcome them, and sometimes ask, what are my excuses? So someone says, oh, the conditions weren't good, the pool was too crowded, for example. Is that a real reason, or is it just an excuse? So once we've set goals like this, we can structure a season according to these goals, and we can make sure that we are on the right path, and we know all the time where our path is and where it's leading us. These instructions, how to achieve my goal that we see in this one, can be checked all the time. I can check, am I exercising regularly? Am I following my diet? How serious am I in the gym? And when goals are set like this, they're a constant reminder for our activity. Also, when we have goals that are printed out and we see them now and then, when an athlete has this in their backpack or somewhere on their desk, it will remind them to follow the instructions that they have set for themselves. Another issue that I would like to address in this webinar is how to check if an athlete is motivated. Psychology has many tests for motivation, but a coach will profit more than from tests, probably from observation. And if you look at your athletes and you have an athlete who will listen to instructions and carry them out to perfection, who will do their exercise regularly, who will not be behaviorally problematic, who will always bring their equipment with themselves, who will try to overcome their obstacles and will do perhaps even more than is necessary. This is a motivated athlete. If you ask an athlete, are you motivated? Most of them will say yes. But those who are actually doing what is written here are really motivated. On the other hand, when you have an athlete who's not that motivated, they will not have their equipment with themselves, they will not be regular on exercise, they will not be punctual when coming to practice. And the best way to find that out is actually through observing them. Of course, motivational tests tend to render a bit of a socially desirable set of answers. So when they're asked, do you like practicing? Are you doing your best? People will tend to say yes, of course. But through observation, you will see much more. You can ask them, why are you not coming to practices on time? I have noticed that you're not working as hard as you used to. Could you tell me what's wrong? So a good conversation will also yield many answers and allow you to structure the practice in a way that will increase the motivation of your athletes. And of course, sometimes it's important to take into account the athlete's situation. For example, when they're busy at school or when they have problems at home, it will decrease their motivation for practice. And you should be able to structure their practice for a while in a manner that will allow them to do their best with respect to their situation in this moment. This brings us to the conclusion of our webinar. I would like to thank you for listening to me and for participating. And I hope it brought some interesting insight into motivation and that it gave you some ideas on how to structure your practice in order to be successful coaches. So thank you again and goodbye.